Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a refreshing lunch and are ready for more insightful discussions this afternoon. As we reconvene, it's my privilege to introduce the second panel discussion of the day, focusing on digital transformation, industry leaders. This panel will be moderated by Professor Peter Gatiti, Associate Vice Provost and University Librarian at Aga Khan University. With a career overseeing AKU's global network of libraries and his extensive research in information science and systems, Professor Gatiti is well poised to lead this discussion on the role of digital transformation across various industries. Joining him on the panel are renowned leaders who are at the forefront of digital innovation in their respective fields. We have Angela Nganga from Microsoft, Ali Zaidi from Primero Group, Mr. Mangale from SEACOM, Abdul from TallyMarks Consulting, and Joseph Karumba from Safaricom. Each brings a unique perspective on how digital technologies are shaping their industries and contributing to economic growth and efficiency. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Professor Gatiti and our distinguished panelists.
Yes, good afternoon, colleagues. So this is an exciting afternoon. Welcoming Angela. Angela serves as the Education Industry Director at Microsoft, where she spearheads initiatives to leverage technology in transforming education. Welcome, Angela. Next is Ali Zaidi of Primero Group. Ali is the CEO of Primero, a trailblazer in utilizing digital solutions to enhance business operations and customer experiences. Ali, please wave. Next, we've got Mr. Abdul Haseeb of TallyMarks Consulting. He is the Managing Director of TallyMarks, where he brings expertise in digital strategy and implementation across organizations within East Africa. Abdul, please wave at the crowd. Then we've got back to the stage Mr. Mangale, who serves as the CEO of SEACOM in Africa, leading telecommunications and managed services, driving digital connectivity across the continent. Mr. Mangale, please appreciate the crowd. Last but not the least is our own Joseph Karumba of Safaricom, that is known for driving the economy. He is the head of digital transformation, which resonates very well with the theme of this conference. And they play a pivotal role in shaping the telecoms giants' digital future. So colleagues, we embark on this insightful discussion on digital transformation in East Africa. And as Nasra has introduced me, as the Associate Vice Provost and University Librarian, I have witnessed first-hand transformative power of digital technologies in education and beyond. Therefore, this gives us a great opportunity to delve into how these technologies are revolutionizing the education sector and other sectors, such as the healthcare sector in the region. So, starting us up with Angela, in your experience, what specific role do you perceive the partnership that Microsoft has with other players like the education, and how that partnership is impacting education, together with how the initiatives that we are undertaking are shaping the future of education? Angela.
Thank you, Prof. I hope I'm allowed to call you Prof. It's been great interacting with you over the last couple of days. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is definitely a pleasure to be here, first and foremost, and also, most importantly, really appreciating the partnership that we enjoy with Aga Khan Development Network. And I think probably that's why the question has been put to us, because I think if you think about partnerships in education, I'll start off with where Bernard from Safaricom spoke earlier and talked about the power of data, or data being the new gold. And I would like to put it to you that, in my view, education institutions and the role that they play in facilitating the future through our students, through ensuring that we have the right capabilities for 21st century work, is the most crucial part. Because you may have data, but if you don't know and you don't have people that can interact with it, that know exactly how to benefit and draw benefits from it across industries, then you're back to square one. In other words, as much as people talk about technology being at the forefront, but technology requires resources, requires skills, or the right skill set, so that you can actually be able to benefit from the gains that you can see in digital transformation. So the question you asked around partnership, I would say, is that for me, the biggest opportunity, especially for us in Africa, as the youngest continent, is really about how do we ensure that we are preparing our students for the workforce. And I think that requires, a two-pronged approach, because obviously there is the work that we need to do with students themselves in terms of skilling, but there's also a very critical part where we need to ensure that we are enabling our educators to be aware of what is available for them and how they can actually infuse the right skills into curriculum. So one of the biggest areas that we are focusing on, or we focused on as Microsoft, is really around partnerships, especially in the tertiary institutions, to make sure that we are enabling you to build the right curricula that fits the future roles. They say by 2025, there are going to be at least 85 million tech-enabled jobs, digital skill, or jobs requiring digital skills. So if we want to be a part of that big transformation in Africa, we have to make sure that then the curricula that we are teaching is relevant for those particular students. 36% today is the number given to how relevant the curricula most of our universities are teaching is to the future jobs. Scary, right? There's a huge gap. So what we're trying to do as Microsoft, and where we see the role of partnership, is because over time, not just ourselves, but even others have built curriculum, deep curriculum. I saw signs of Cisco here in the room. I think there was also other players, Oracle. Over time, we have built huge bases of curricula. And the question is, how can we partner together with institutions such as yourselves and other universities and ensure that we infuse the curricula that is rich enough to enable our students to come out future-proofed or future-ready? The biggest challenge, I'm sure there are business people here that will tell you, is that you're finding that there's huge labor market, but when you go to hire, the skills you're looking for are not there. If Safaricom takes 25 data scientists, question is, and then Microsoft takes 200, because right now we are employing close to 200 data scientists. My question is, how many more do we have in the country trained at that level or that caliber that we're looking for? So for me, the role of partnerships here would be, how can we enable institutions such as yourselves to have access to enriched curriculum? How do we then make sure that your courses, your curricula is rich enough and the certifications are industry specific? So think about today in your health sciences, how do we infuse, as an example, IoT or data science learning into those particular courses? And I'm not challenging Aga Khan. Probably, I know Aga Khan's done a lot because you've challenged us to come back to you with what is available. But in most cases, you'll find there are gaps. So for me, the partnership on skills, I would say, would be my number one element. The second thing is, really in terms of enabling and ensuring that there's inclusive learning. Learners come to schools with different abilities. And I think partnerships around the tools that we have, collaboration tools, productivity tools as well, that allow us to manage and help our students and get the students at the level that is required, is probably another area that I would speak to from a partnership perspective. Back to you.
Thank you, Angela. Indeed, that challenges us in terms of producing enough and good skilled graduates in data science. The market is big. So as an educationist, our ears are wide open in terms of the gaps that the employers are looking for. Thank you, Angela. Closely related to that, we've got Safaricom, which is a leader in this region. So Joseph, probably you could share with us, what are your perspectives regarding partnerships as key drivers for innovation and growth? And probably what Safaricom is doing in fostering the ecosystem of innovation in this part of the world. Thank you, Joseph.
Okay, thank you. Again, Joseph from Safaricom taking care of the digital transformation team. And of course, it's a corporate-wide transformation that we look at, and not just internally looking, but external looking, because we are a business that thrives on transforming lives. And if you're going to transform lives, then you need to connect people to people, and which we do with our vast network on the 5G side, 4G side, the peer-to-peer transfer of money through M-Pesa, that's the people-to-people connection. But there's the people to opportunity. Many businesses have come as a result of what Safaricom does. Think of a dealer, a small kiosk there next to a Mama Mboga that is helping, taking cash in, cash out. That's a business, and that's part of transforming lives. And the last part is connecting people to knowledge, because knowledge is very important. That's why we are talking about education here. And it's not just data and information, it's about knowledge, because knowledge is a much more advanced level before we even talk about wisdom. So digital transformation, very resonant theme, that's what I do. So Prof, fantastic pick on the theme. Talking about partnership, straight to your question. We say nowadays, we say collaboration is the new leadership. I don't think, anyway, that's why we even talk about teamwork generally. You look at teams, football teams, for example, even if you have the best striker ahead, you won't be able to score unless there is also a proper midfield and a proper defense. And that's the same thing even in the business context. So when it comes to partnerships, for us, actually, our business is very partnerships led. We work with almost everyone in the ecosystem, whether it's the big tech companies like Microsoft, Angela is here, or whether it's the small startups that are working here, whether they are playing in the fintech space or the financial technology space, health tech space. We work with all these partners. And our main aim is to ensure that if we want to grow our business, at the end of the day, we must ask ourselves, really, what products or what solutions are we taking to market, and what purpose are we actually being able to effectively lead? So on the technology front, we look at ourselves as a technology company. So we have a big vision to become a technology company by the year 2025. And Africa's leading technology company. So the word techco, you will hear, people know telco. You will hear more of techco, a technology company. So we are fusing pretty much like what a company like Microsoft could do or does with what a telecommunication company of the past would do. And for people like Alpheus here, I'm sure he has done, you hear about digital service providers or DSPs. So you can't be able to offer those kind of solutions if you are not really forging proper partnerships in the ecosystem. And we are very deliberate about those partnerships, both in academia, by the way, the universities. We have a huge engineering community. So we are nurturing talent from straight there because we know the workforce of the future, as Angela was saying, it needs to be really equipped with what's happening. So how do we bridge that gap between the institution like ours, the leading institution, and the academia down there? So we are starting the partnerships there. We are partnering with the large, small, medium businesses, wherever they are in the country. So we offer them solutions, but we also consume their services. And then for the big tech companies, the new technologies that are coming up, people are talking a lot about things like generative AI, machine learning. Some of these capabilities require a very, very, very large scale investment, for example, and not just in terms of the buying power, but also to be able to leapfrog, to be able to use really computing or capabilities at the very edge. You need those global partnerships. So we are working with the big tech companies. I was working before at Oracle, I was working before at SAP, and all those companies have something they do directly, either with Safaricom or with the Vodafone family, of which we are also part. So for us, partnerships are important. Then when you say, how are we transforming then the economies in light of those partnerships? I define digital transformation simply as the systems level restructuring that happens in an organization our society or our economy when digital diffuses. That definition is vital, because if you think about an organization like Aga Khan University or Aga Khan Hospital, itself, it needs to digitally transform, to be lean, to be able to take advantage, to improve its patient experience or customer experience or citizen experience, wherever it might be. And that's why you see any organization that's leading on the maturity index of digital transformation, they're usually on the edge. The next point, I talked about the economic disruption. We talk about digital societies nowadays, or digital economies. So the work Safaricom is doing at every age, you can see the ripple effect. Even with government, if you use the Hustler Fund solution, for example, you paid on e-citizen, you are paid for any of your services, a business license, you see that is the restructuring that I'm talking about, that digital transformation brings. So the partnerships, yes, but the actual transformation, which is tangible. If you live in Kenya and you have not interacted with a Safaricom-based solution, then you must be living in a cage somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. And I think during our interactions, I asked you something about the M-Pesa Foundation and what you think it is innate for us there as institutions. Probably you'd like to mention about that as well?
Yes, our foundation, I look at the programs and projects that our foundation team started. I will speak about Safaricom Foundation and by extension, the M-Pesa Foundation. The kind of partnerships that I see we are rolling out with major health players, for example. I was in Kisumu last week for a market visit, and the CEO and the governor of Kisumu, Professor Nyang'nyong'o Asio Peter Ndegwa, they launched a maternity hospital with, I don't know if I can remember well, a couple of hundreds of beds to cater for the society down there. And these are about, again, transforming lives, but also being a serious corporate citizen, a serious corporate citizen that is responsible, so that you are not just thinking of the profits, you are thinking about the people, and you're thinking about the planet. So we are very deliberate about that. And for an institution like Aga Khan University and Aga Khan Hospital for that matter, we would be more than keen to further those collaborations, because already the model of engagement is already improved. Anywhere you go in this country, in any county, you will see the footprint of what Safaricom Foundation is doing, and by extension, the M-Pesa Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. So building upon that is a question for Abdul. Looking at your digital transformation initiatives with TallyMarks Consulting, what do you perceive to be the best approach that can impact positively the local communities? And how would you incorporate user-centric, customer-focused solutions in populations such as East Africa? Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. So I'd like to divide the question into two parts. So when you look at user centricity, if you're developing a solution for digital transformation in an enterprise, it is done in a different way. You have more control. You have people that you can provide easy accessibility of the solution to. You can train them better. You can enforce the solution better. So there is a lot of things that you have in control for a solution that you're deploying for an enterprise or an organization. But when we're talking about solutions which are publicly facing applications, those applications which are widely used as a service or as a portal for general public, whether it's a G2C solution or a B2C solution, I think the user centricity plays an important role from many perspectives. So one is obviously the language. So the solution or the application need to cover comprehensively all the languages so that maximum adaptability of the solution is covered. So that is one. And again, IT literacy plays an important role as well. From an IT literacy perspective, we should expect that everybody, based on their age group, educational background, will not be at the same IT literacy level. So the application should be designed in a way that it should be able to cater to a wide variety of and different levels of IT literacy. And what can be done to ensure that is First of all, I think from a literacy perspective, we have already talked and listened to many of the speakers about the solution being available on mobile first. So I think that is one of the ways, because mobile is very easily accessible and widely used as well. So that makes sure that the application is accessible to a wide population. That is number one. And it is more easy for less IT literate population to use a mobile-based application than a web-based application. Then also we look at other factors such as um, uh, the application should be able to proxy, because at the end of the day, no matter how much campaign you do, how well the application is built, at the end of the day, there will be people who will not be able to use the application, and the application might be important for them. So applications should have assisted, let's say, an assisted mode whereby somebody else should be able to proxy on somebody's behalf to use a particular service, or from a user design perspective, to be able to use that application on somebody's behalf while not being able to, let's say, abuse the use of the application on behalf of that person. And then again, I'd like to highlight a public campaign around any service or any digital transformation initiative is very, very important. So a good design with a very good campaign and a public user training around that application makes sure that the application is properly adopted across masses as well. And in terms of IT adoptability, what we also employ as tools is that user surveys and user groups, which are used to then validate the design principles and to make sure the application is designed in a way that it is easy to use by masses in general. So I think these are some of the basics for overall user design centricity, which ensures inclusivity, that is one, and accessibility of the application to maximum population possible. And obviously, if the application has that angle to it, that it should be non-biased from a gender perspective, from an age perspective, or from a disability perspective. So those perspectives should be catered to within the application. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abdul. That's quite insightful. Thank you. So Ali of the Primero group, this question moves a bit from the education perspective to the healthcare sector. Given that we've just come out of the pandemic, of course, it underscored the importance of adaptability in business operations and how technology came out handy to play a significant role in that involvement. So as a group, and in your opinion as a digital leader, what do you think would be the role of digital technologies in building resilience to ensure business continuity in the face of disruptions such as COVID-19?
Thank you, Peter. So I think COVID was a very tricky time. All of a sudden, everything changed for the worse in most cases. But one thing that COVID taught us was this, that all the transformation and accelerated change that happened in industry and in public sector, really all those technologies and business models and operating models existed even before. So there wasn't anything that you can say was category defining innovation that we were forced to adapt. It's just that when we got pushed into a situation, everybody figured it out and had to adapt at a speed that no one was ever used to. So it tells you a lot about when it comes to adaptability. I think the human side is probably the most important factor, and moving forward, I think to build that resilience, we as technology leaders, we need to understand what can we do to ensure that any technology initiative that is taken or implemented, or in some cases even the market dictates that we have to adapt to it. How are we enabling our people in becoming more comfortable with those changes? I think in our case, you mentioned about healthcare. So historically, healthcare has had, at least in the more developed market, sort of a framework in place. You had compliances. There was a strong push towards institutionalizing technology implementation within healthcare. But some of the other industries, for example, logistics, they were just caught off guard when you're literally looking at global shipping leaders that we're literally running off documents, and all of a sudden, nothing can operate the way it is operating, right? In healthcare, you had a big problem with people not being able to, come to work, and somehow, the healthcare industry was sort of overboarded with demand because of the health situation. So I think we really need to focus on the human side of things, to build that resilience. And as I look back and I look at it, I think the acceleration was overall, really good for the industry and has pushed us beyond our comfort zone. And I think it's important now to build forward on top of it, but not forgetting that the adaptation and the people side of technology cannot be left behind as we move forward.
Thank you very much, Ali, for that perspective. So back to Mr. Mangale of SEACOM. And my question really builds up upon the excellent presentation that we had from you, I think, this morning. So SEACOM continues to innovate. And of course, it takes a leading role in emerging technologies. So in your perspective, what would you perceive to be the areas of priority on matters pertaining to investments in technology? And upon investments, how then shall we kind of evaluate to ensure there is a return on investment, or we are now able to measure the impact of the investments that we have put into matters pertaining to technology? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, again. Thank you for having us here. I think it's a critical question you ask, Prof. The first thing probably to realize, I think we live in the world where we should accept that technology is going to change rapidly. If you just look at the last 20 years or even the last 5 years, the pace at which technology has changed and the way it's just changed the way we live, the way we actually work, and the way we do many things in our society, that will actually carry on. I think will carry on. It will be a lot more faster. Perhaps if you look in the past, maybe it's taken longer to get new technology being introduced. In the future, I expect that there will be rapid introduction of new technology. But it doesn't help anyone if technology is just being introduced for the sake of technology. At SEACOM, what we really prioritize, you start with the number one stakeholder, which is the customer. And often there's a lot of new technologies that come about, but if the technology you're introducing is not really helping move the society forward, helping solve a business challenge that a customer might be sitting with, or helping a government institution services people better, then what's the use of that technology? So that's an important fact to, I would say, an important consideration to look at before you do anything, because you might end up investing a lot of money in technology that one will never get to scalability, that is not comparable to any of the existing technology, and so on and so forth. So that's a critical starting point, is what problem are we trying to solve and how do we move the society forward around that? The second part, if I just look internally from a SEACOM point of view, is to say, what are we trying to achieve? How does this new technology accelerate our vision and our mission and our purpose? And how does it complement what we currently have in the fold? And we look at that, and by going through doing competitive analysis, doing ROI studies, cost and benefit analysis, to really actually tell us whether it is worth making the investment in the technology that we have. Also, from a competitive point of view, you don't want to just be a me too player in the market. Everybody else is doing it, therefore you should do it. So how will that technology set you apart from the rest of the players in the market? So that's a critical answer. Will that help us increase our market share? Will that help us serve our customer better? These are all questions that we go through in making sure that we make informed decisions around them. Furthermore, you also have to look at regulatory impact. If you are excited about technology, and we've seen a number of those examples that new technologies come up, but perhaps maybe regulation is still behind, and you find that the technology advancement actually dies very quickly because of technology or regulatory readiness is not there. And another few examples is quite recently, as recent as this month, SEACOM launched a service in one of our markets in the field called LEO, which is low Earth orbit satellite. We launch a service. We collaborate with other players, and I think everybody will know this. You said this earlier. We are working in an environment where you will not be able to achieve things alone. In fact, it will be quicker to be able to accelerate technology advancement, technology scalability when you partner with others. The technology that we launched in one of our markets earlier this month, we are collaborating with other players. And soon you are going to see this technology being launched here in Kenya and subsequently in other adjacent markets here. We are able to do that quicker because we are collaborating with others, and it makes sense to do that. And we are able to reach scalability and adaptability and adoption primarily by our customers and users in the market quite quickly. So those will be, I would say, the various aspects, maybe not conclusively, but those will be the major ones that I would say I would advise if anyone wants to look at and considering a new technology advancement, they should look at that. The number one being, what customer problem are you trying to solve? Thank you.
Great. So what customer facing problem are you trying to solve? Mine is education, but I'll come back to you. So really reflecting on today's discussions, I would like our panelists to dwell upon the critical success factors and they share with us one takeaway, which they believe is the core component of digital transformation that they feel resonates well with the theme of the conference and the region that we operate from, starting with Ajara. What is the takeaway? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll summarize it simply with the point that the panelists here spoke about, which is really, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go further, go with others. I think when you think about digital transformation, one, there is the theme that this is an IT problem. IT is the one that's going to solve for this. But when you think about digital transformation, it's actually a problem that we need to all solve for if we want to progress in solving issues either today or for the future. I tend to look at digital transformation with three components. Digital transformation, the technology piece itself is on one end, but it's important that even as we think about that, then we look at the culture. What culture do we have within our organizations? What do we need to change? Because unless we are ready to transform, to ask ourselves those hard questions on what are we going to leave behind in order for us to be able to leapfrog into the future. So having conversations around cultural transformation is a critical part of driving your digital transformation journey. And last but not least, the people transformation. If you don't have a conversation around your people, the jobs, the roles, because all that has to change in order for us to really benefit and leapfrog from the amazing opportunities of digital transformation. I'll pause there. Thanks, Prof.
Thank you. Adi Abdul.
So I think in any transformation initiative, change management is the most key element and a key success factor. Today we're talking about digital transformation. We already heard from all of our speakers today about AI and what it is bringing in. So I think 2 years or maybe 1 year from now, we might be talking about AI transformations across organizations. So as they say, change is the only constant. So I think with transformation, change management, the ability to change for an organization or to publicly campaign that change is the key success factor in my view in any transformation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Ali.
So with respect to East Africa, and so in all transparency, I probably don't have too much awareness about the ground realities, but the last 2 days have been very knowledgeable for me to learn from so many interesting conversations. I think we had a lot of focus on conversation around regulation, and so I think as the region embraces technology transformation or transformation in general, digital being obviously the most important tool these days to transform. I think the regulation also has to play, or the regulator has to play a very active role of removing all the blockers. But at the same time, there's a very thin line between, removing the blockers, but then also trying to, execute innovation. And I feel that there's very little empirical evidence where, a regulator has been able to enforce innovation. I mean, that's always come down from entrepreneurs or extreme outliers that think differently. So the regulator has a very important role here, but at the same time, I think the people in general, or the innovators in general in the region, have to take it upon them to understand that, well, you have to embrace all the opportunities that you see in a region like East Africa or Africa in general. And if you compare that with the developed world, I mean, maybe you don't see that many opportunities because a lot of innovation in a lot of areas has already happened. So working with the regulator, but embracing the local opportunities and localizing and building models, business models that are going to relate with what the problems are in Africa, I think is gonna push the continent and the region forward. And if that done properly, as I mentioned earlier, the human side of it, together with those factors, we obviously have big hyperscalers in the region. We have companies like, Safaricom, SEACOM. I think you have all the ingredients available. And in fact, it's so interesting when COVID happened, right? So my company is involved in advising or working with a lot of industry leaders in traditional sectors like telecom, and as they were forced into this inward cannibalization where they had to rethink their core business model, they were looking at examples of mobile payments in regions that are not as developed. I mean, looking at let's say Pix in Brazil, which is their core payment transformation system that then enables so many digital banks and players to be activated. And almost as we see in this region where telecom companies have reinvented themselves as a major player and being a real technology first player. So I think the ingredients are all there. We have to learn to localize, embrace the opportunity, embrace the challenges, because I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, that's great for you, right? And you have those over here, and that creates hope, and you have an enabling environment. I think all of that together, I think that's for me, that is the recipe.
Brilliant, brilliant. Business processes, re-engineering and all that. Thank you. So Joseph, bringing it back home, what do you think should be your message today regarding?
Yeah, the beauty with what technology has done in the world, it has really leveled the ground. Nowadays, you can't talk about South Africa, East Asia, Brazil, Caribbean, United States, Europe. Nowadays, the technology is leveling the ground. It's just the nuances of the local problems that you will find, but pretty much the challenges that society faces, and I've traveled to all those continents, the challenges that society faces are pretty much mirrored. So sometimes digital transformation feels like you're trying to boil the ocean. It feels like it's something like an impossibility. And that's what one key takeaway I want the audience to take is that when you're approaching digital transformation programs, you have to start with the bigger picture. It's about the bigger picture. Where do you want to be as an organization, say in 3 years or 5 years? And then start small. Very, very, very important. You have a bigger picture, but again, don't boil the ocean. Start small. If it's how you deal with your suppliers, automate that process so that there's no paperwork involved. You don't have tens of people approving a very simple internal requisition. Digitize that. And then go to the customer experience or the patient experience, automate it so that when I come back for a clinic visit, you don't ask me the same questions to try and authenticate me. Take advantage of technology we have, create a system of record, an electronic health record so that you can identify. Because the only thing humans do is to grow old, but they never change. The identity, you can even give it to them when they have been conceived, actually, forget even when they have been born. So let's take advantage of starting small and digitally transforming over time. Then never stop. When you stop, then that's where your organization starts failing. Because remember, as some panelists have said here, the world is changing so fast, especially on the technological front, and it will never change this slowly again. So the rate of change can only become hasty. So if you are slacking, if you are stopping and saying this year we are not doing any digital project, we're only building, setting up buildings and building roads within the hospital, then you know you are slacking, because the real opportunity will be on organizations that are digitally transformed. The last thing, move with speed. Move with speed. So don't stay in a project forever. Nowadays, we talk about the world of agility. The word agile working that we at Safaricom popularize, we have an agile culture of working. The word agile came from software engineers. I'm a software engineer by profession. It was about how can we actually solve a business problem using software in a very quick way without months and weeks of waiting, because the problems in the field are happening as we speak. Agility. So any organization that wants to be digitally transformed, it must have the agility DNA within it, and talking about culture. So those to me would be the key talking points around digital transformation.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Kwa hivyo, ground iko sawa.
Yes, kwa ground tuko sawa. In East Africa, we have the advantage. We have carriers like SEACOM here, who remember connectivity is at the very. We usually say the network is the computer. When that statement I used to say it when we were at the university, but now you realize just how important connectivity is. We can't even talk about these blockchain technologies, artificial intelligence, until you get connectivity right. So people think that connectivity is just because you can pick a phone and call someone. It looks so simple. But at the end of the day, that is the digital infrastructure. And we'll never talk about digital transformation. We don't get the stuff right. In East Africa, we have even speeds that are greater than some developed countries. There are some countries in Europe that are still in the old-fashioned CDMA type of technology. So we have leapfrogged. The beauty of not having the landlines is that we moved very, very, very fast, and we overtook some even developed countries. So here in East Africa, perfect job. The carriers are doing. People like SEACOM will continue building great networks. Our coverage is over 90% of the country. We are rolling out multiple sites. And then now, within that network, the question is, you can have the infrastructure, but do you have the vehicles passing there? Are the drivers competent? Are the passengers aware about where they're going? So it's the same thing with the information superhighway. So in East Africa, we don't have a challenge when it comes to technology. You know, many Kenyans are very digitally savvy, and that is what Angela was speaking earlier. Digital skills right now, they are survival skills, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a good to have. It's something that even you disrupt yourself. Ask yourself, what new, how are you preparing yourself for the world that will inevitably come when machines are becoming much more intelligent? I personally don't believe a machine will ever become much more intelligent than a human, but it will have the capability to understand many things more than a human. But we need to live together. So these machines, they will find us, but they need to find us from a point of awareness and from a point of preparation. Thank you.
Thank you. And Angela wants to build on to that.
Yeah, I want to support he's spoken like for 50 of us in this room. But I just wanted to add 2 points, and maybe to go into a point that my fellow panelists talked about in terms of regulation. So I've had the pleasure of working in the ICT industry for close to 20 years. And I can tell you for a fact that regulation is not an impediment in East Africa. I'm not saying it's free for all, but we need to be careful about what we ask for. If we had steep regulations in this country, Safaricom would not exist, right? The fact that the regulator was allowed the free flow of let's innovate, let's see what this mobile money is, it was possible. I've had the chance, of course, I work in education today, but I've worked with FSI, and I've led conversations with central banks. And central bank customers, most of our banks today, are leveraging the technology. They are on the cloud, right? So it isn't an impediment. The thing that is important here is to manage the risk. There's always going to be risk in one form or shape. And even when you keep your data on premise, there's a risk. So I think for me, what I would say is East Africa, we should just go for it. We have the speeds, we have cable. We have, I think, over 4 or 5 cables now in the country, if I'm not mistaken. high-speed internet. You just have to travel to other parts of Africa and realize the gold we have here, that we can talk about 4G, 5G speed. So we have really no excuse not to be able to really leverage and use the technology. And to his point around artificial intelligence, I mean, this has always been there. I know we are worried about AI, but AI to me is the benefit of it is when we actually start to turn it into what I would call HI, human intelligence. How do you use the technology to get better and quicker and faster at what we can do? And that's where the opportunity I see that we need to leapfrog here in East Africa. And we need to be aware and awoke to the fact that others are also moving quite fast. So while my friend spoke about a level playing ground, other countries are now taking this as the advantage to leapfrog. Yet we have been one of the key players in East Africa to be, first ahead in terms of having access to technology. So we really need to embrace it and move fast in order to be ahead of the curve.
Thank you, Angela, and I assure you, we shall embrace it and we shall move fast. So, Mr. Mangale, who is representing SEACOM, our national carrier, regional carrier, tell us more about the key message for us this afternoon.
Sure. Thanks, Prof. I always say the benefit of speaking last, you got the luxury of saying, I agree with all of the above, right? And I don't have to repeat any of that. But on a serious note, though, I think the previous panelists make some valid and fundamental points, maybe not to the risk of repeating what they said, but they a couple of other thoughts maybe to take away. I'll start with the phrase itself, digital transformation. Actually, digital transformation assumes that you are going to transform. Assume that you are not digital. It assumes that you are analog. So by itself, it means that you are going to move from a state of where you are now to a state of some sort in the future. So to the point that you made earlier, you can't start on that journey if you're not clear on what it is that you're trying to achieve. So how will you know that you have achieved digital transformation if you are not clear about the vision of where you're trying to get to? What are the reasons for you doing the digital transformation? And I want to just pause on this one, because you will find when you're not clear about digital transformation and you are saving clients, you'll find some of your channels will be digital, but very quickly, the digital experience is matched with a very analog experience, which means you are ending up through the digital transformation, which doesn't have clear objective, you are ending up with a very poor client experience, because you're letting your clients experience something wonderful, but while they're still busy with you on the channel, they're experiencing something really bad. So you have to be really clear about the vision, the strategy. And the second thing, you have to start. And you have to start small and celebrate those wins as you start. And actually take the people that are driving that digital transformation in the organization, make the one to celebrate those wins, make them visible in the organization, showcase throughout the organization that this is how the future looks like. Because people change. In fact, we talk about change management. There is no change management, it's people changing. People would have worked this way, then they now need to change to work in this other particular way. So if you want to do digital transformation, you need to then showcase the people that are doing that transformation in the organization. Before you know it, and if you're an agile organization, everybody will be working in the new ways of working and will be embracing the digital transformation in the organization and working in agile and all of that. The other part, which I know one of the panelists touched on, that probably I would say is the biggest challenge, is the culture. The culture is probably the biggest impediment of digital transformation in my view, because culture says, this is how we do things here at SEACOM. This is how we do things here at Aga Khan University, for instance. So you're actually asking people to change, to say the way you've been doing things this way in the past, perhaps is no longer relevant because you're trying to do things differently. So how do you take people on the journey and taking them through this change management by doing the soft things? Because technology is easy to learn, but doing the soft things, how do you get the mindset? How do you get them to shift from the way they work to the way they need to work in the future? By communicating the wins and making sure that people celebrate on that. So that will be my underlying fact is culture. Is at the end of the day, digital transformation is about changing the way we are doing things in our organization. We just happen to use technology to do that. And it's us people who change. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mangale. To sum it up, colleagues, what we are gathering here is digital transformation is a triangle. It's all about people, processes, and technology. So the three, when combined together, forms digital transformation. So I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to our esteemed panelists for sharing your expertise and knowledge with us. And it has indeed been very insightful. Your contributions have made this successful, and we are truly happy that you have shared your knowledge with us, which has really been very impactful. So as we move forward, let us continue impacting these insights and making digital transformation part of our day-to-day work so that this momentum can continue going on. Thank you very much and have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.